Hello, bonjour. My name is Roger Dwyer, and I'm here to welcome you into our backyard garden in Scarborough, notre potager. We're going to be talking about gardening, growing your own fruits and vegetables, but I'm also going to tell you a little bit about my organization, Seed Money. And my wife is going to do some translating into French.
Donc, bonjour, on va vous présenter notre potager et on va parler aussi de Seed Money, l'association que Roger a créée il y a déjà quelques années.
So we're starting in our strawberry patch here. It's the month of June into early July. That's strawberry season in Maine. So we have the beginnings of our strawberry crop coming in. And we also have a little bit of rhubarb there in the corner that has just recently been harvested. And our dog Luna, who's our garden companion.
Alors on a les fraises ici qui commencent à rougir, la rhubarbe que j'ai récoltée cette semaine et je l'ai mis au congélateur, et Luna qui est un petit peu chaud et qui nous accompagne et qui va vous montrer notre potager.
So now we're heading towards our little herb garden area where we have things like parsley and chives, a little bit of basil, and some weeds mixed in there too, because this is a real garden.
Alors c'est la partie des herbes. Il y a du persil, la ciboulette qui est en fleurs pour le moment, le basilic, on a un peu plus de basilic ailleurs, et là on a du thym.
So now we're stepping into the main part of the garden where we have lots of different things going on. We've got our first crop of potatoes, which is looking pretty healthy.
Donc voici la barrière anti-chien. Et ici, nos pommes de terre qui ont l'air vraiment, qui sont en très bonne santé et bien avancées pour la saison.
And over here, you can't really see them. Maybe if you get in really close, Jacqueline, you can see that there are some really small carrot plants that have just started to sprout. So that whole bed there is planted with carrots, and we will get hopefully a very generous crop which will take us right through the winter.
Mm-hmm. Donc là, vous venez de voir, là ce sont les carottes qui viennent d'être plantées et qui commencent à germer.
And related to carrots, another root vegetable are beets. So this is a whole bed planted with beets.
Ce sont les betteraves, mon légume préféré.
And staying on this side here, let's come over this way, Jacqueline. We have a bunch of different things. We have some lettuce plants, a couple of different types.
Là, c'est la salade, c'est de la laitue qui va former une boule.
And actually right behind me, we have a few grapevines.
Donc ça, ce sont les vignes.
So those are just sort of like table grapes that we use just for fresh eating. And they could be used for making jellies and jams as well. And this is celeriac, which is a type of celery, but which is grown for the bulbs, not the stalks. So that's very popular in France and Belgium and in Northern Europe.
Donc ça, c'est du céleri rave. J'aime beaucoup le céleri rave parce que ça fait partie un petit peu de ce que nous mangeons aussi en Belgique. Le céleri rave, c'est une boule que l'on râpe et on l'assaisonne avec une remoulade. C'est excellent.
Here we have green peppers, and right next to you, Jacqueline, we have basil.
Donc ça, ce sont les poivrons qui seront d'abord verts et puis qui deviendront rouges grâce au soleil. Et là, c'est le basilic qui a l'air d'être en bonne santé.
It's looking good, yep.
Et de bien grandir.
And then on this side, we have two beds of garlic. Garlic is planted in the fall here in Maine. And it winters over, so you plant the little cloves, for example, in the month of November. They actually start to sprout in the soil, but they don't actually come up until the following year, and then they're ready for harvest usually in the month of July.
Donc ça c'est l'ail. L'ail est planté en automne et au printemps, l'ail grandit et on le récolte au mois de juillet. Ce que vous voyez ici, c'est cette pousse, en fait, on va la récolter dans 2 semaines et on va pouvoir faire déjà du pesto avec cette partie de la plante. Voilà.
Okay, then moving
Alors, juste un petit moment, là, c'est pour vous montrer notre chien qui est en train de grimper dans l'arbre. C'est Luna, notre chien-chat.
Okay. Coming over this side, we have a row of green beans there, which are looking pretty healthy. And what we do is something called succession planting, where we don't plant the entire seed packet in one go. We plant, for example, a half row here, and then in 2 weeks' time, I'll plant another half row here. And you do that in order to have a more regular harvest, so that you don't have everything coming at the same time. So that's called succession planting.
Ça, c'est une ligne d'haricots verts. Et ce que l'on fait, c'est que l'on plante une première ligne et puis 15 jours plus tard, on plante une seconde ligne pour avoir une succession de la production. Donc la récolte ne se fait pas toute en même temps.
And then over on this side, we have some zucchini plants here, which are looking great, which are starting to produce. We have some very small ones starting to grow, which you can see there.
Oui, on peut voir ici, ce sont les courgettes. On peut voir une petite plante, une petite courgette qui se développe et là une fleur, la fleur de la courgette.
And then over here we have cucumbers. And we have cucumbers which are going to eventually start to cling to this trellis structure. And you do that in order to have more cucumbers in a limited amount of space. But it also makes for really easy harvesting because the cucumbers will start to fall through these holes here. So that's why we have it set up this way.
Alors ça, ce sont les concombres et on utilise un treillis pour que les concombres puissent grandir le long du treillis. Et de nouveau, il y a cette même idée où il y a une succession on plante les différentes plantes à différents moments pour avoir une récolte plus longue.
So if you come over this side now, we're going to take a look at our first bed.
Oh, la salade aussi.
Oh, we have the salad over here. So we have salad greens growing underneath this trellis structure. So it's just a way of sort of using this space, which otherwise wouldn't be very well used. And these plants are going to be sort of happy together in the sense that when the cucumbers start to come up, it's actually going to provide some shade for these lettuce plants, which appreciate some sun and heat, but not too much either.
Donc ici, c'est la salade qui va grandir en fait à l'ombre des concombres une fois que le soleil deviendra plus intense. C'est un type de salade où on peut en manger plusieurs fois, c'est-à-dire que on coupe, il y a plusieurs récoltes, on coupe et la salade grandit à nouveau. Ici, il y a un petit peu de roquette qui est...
Yeah, so she was talking about roquette, which is arugula. And that was actually planted last year, but only really came up this spring. And it's a very sort of spicy version of arugula. It's good, but it's pretty peppery. So going on to the other side to take a look at our first bed of tomato plants here, which are sort of built into like a single trellising system, which is a bit of a cage made with some twine. These are tomato plants that are not going to grow too tall, but they're going to want to grow out a little bit. So this type of structure will keep them sort of contained.
Donc là, ce sont nos tomates et on utilise une structure pour aider les tomates à grandir.
Oui, sans toucher par terre, sans tomber par terre.
Oui, sans tomber par terre, exact.
And so that's a big part of gardening is understanding the different types of structures that you need to have in order to allow plants to be happy and healthy. And so over here, for example, we have a structure which is a trellising system that we're using for our peas. You can see that the peas are just climbing up this structure all by themselves and they're clinging on. So there's really no work to be done once the peas have been planted. They just find their way to onto that that sort of system and will continue to grow up and up and up. And we're getting our first pea pods right now, which is exciting. That's something that our boys absolutely have loved over the years.
Donc ça, ce sont les petits pois qui poussent le long d'une structure. Et ce qui est très intéressant, c'était vraiment le légume préféré de nos enfants quand ils étaient petits. Nous avons déménagé en 2005 et la première chose que nous avons fait, c'est de planter un potager. Et nos enfants ont grandi en mangeant les légumes de notre jardin. Quand ils avaient des amis, ils venaient avoir un petit snack dans le jardin, manger ils venaient grignoter dans le jardin. Donc c'était vraiment très 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 chouette. Tous les amis aimaient bien faire ça.
So let's stay on this side here because we have 3 beds of different allium crops. So the alliums are things like onions, which we have here, and then we have leeks. And then over there we have shallots, and they're all in the same family basically.
Donc ici nous avons un lit avec des oignons. Il y a des oignons jaunes et il y a également des oignons rouges. On peut le voir à la base ici. Il y a les poireaux et en français, les Belges disent les poros, qui sont pour le moment, Roger ne les a pas encore. Comment ça s'appelle cette technique où pour que les poros deviennent blancs, il faut mettre de la terre au pied des poros. Et puis après, là, il y a les échalotes.
And here we have another couple of lines of salad greens. These are looking very vibrant. And this is what's called a cut and come again variety, which means what it says, you can cut it and you can come back in a week or 2 and it will have grown again. So you can get, in some cases, 2 or 3 harvests out of a line of salad greens done like that.
Mm-hmm. Donc ça c'est de la salade que l'on peut couper et elle repousse. Donc voilà, il y a moyen d'en profiter d'avoir plusieurs récoltes.
Then over on this side, well, first of all, we have some more tomatoes over there. And these are a different type of tomato. These are called indeterminate tomatoes, which is like a fancy word for saying tomatoes that grow very, very tall. And we have them grown in these cages in order to give them a good structure for growing tall into. And we actually have a different type of tomato grown in between the cages, which is a type that isn't going to grow very tall, which is going to be sort of stocky and sturdy, and it doesn't need sort of the same support system that the indeterminate tomatoes need.
Mmh. Donc là, nous avons d'autres tomates qui vont grandir dans des cages parce que ces tomates vont devenir très, très grandes. Donc la cage permet à la tomate de grandir sans tomber.
So over here we have a couple of different varieties of winter squash. So our favorite, for example, is butternut squash. So we have quite a few plants of that. We have a couple of different types of pumpkins in there. And this is a great crop for Maine. It grows very well here. It stores very well. So we'll have our squash crop last right through the winter and into early spring, which is a nice thing to be in Maine and to be still eating from the garden.
Donc ça c'est l'endroit où poussent les courges. Nous avons différents types de courges. Dans quelques semaines, l'entièreté sera complètement recouverte. Donc voilà, c'est le tout début.
And over on this side still, we have a bed that's planted with cabbage. So cabbage is a crop that takes a long time to reach maturity, but there's a good payoff with cabbage in the sense that it too is a crop that stores quite well. So you can have like heads of cabbage that are kept for weeks, if not months at a time. We store a lot of our root crops and cabbage and things like that, potatoes, in our bulkhead, which is a nice kind of cool area. But we'll also make sauerkraut out of our cabbage, which is another way to sort of extend our harvest right into the winter.
Donc là, ce sont les choux. Les choux, nous les utilisons pour faire de la choucroute. Nous préservons aussi beaucoup de nos légumes racines. On utilise le bulkhead pour entreposer nos légumes racines. Ce que j'ai fait, c'est que j'utilise de l'isolation et sur les escaliers, je mets les légumes dans des caisses et ça nous permet de préserver nos légumes jusqu'au mois d'avril, mai.
And that includes things also like potatoes. We have pretty much the whole back part of this garden is planted with potatoes. And we grow a number of different varieties. We grow the red skin varieties that people sort of associate with summer in Maine. But we also grow other types like fingerlings and white potatoes, which are good in chowders, for example. We grow potatoes that are good in fries because Jacqueline is from Belgium, which is known for its fries. So we're trying to make this garden something that allows us to eat the types of food that we'd like to eat and eat in a very healthy way. And we often will sort of joke that at a certain point in time, it's the garden that tells us what's for dinner because it's got something that needs to be harvested. And we try to be creative to build a meal around whatever crop is ready that particular day.
Donc on a différentes variétés de pommes de terre. On a des pommes de terre aussi pour faire des frites. Ça fait partie un petit peu les bonnes frites belges. Et puis, quoi d'autre?
Well, then right next to you, it's not the prettiest part of the garden, but we have a compost pile. And we keep a pretty large and active compost pile. So I'm going to turn that in a few days. And you would see if I were to do that right now, there would be a lot of activity inside there. There would be some heat in there, there'd be worms, and they're actually the ones who are doing the heavy lifting in terms of creating fertility for this garden. This is a completely organic garden. We don't add any types of chemical fertilizers or pesticides. We use a lot of organic compost. We put a lot of organic mulch down to keep the weeds out and to keep the moisture in. And we do that because we want to feel good about the food that we're eating, the food that we're giving to our family. And it's something that is attainable to anyone if they have access to even a little bit of space. You can grow some delicious, healthy vegetables that are good for us and good for the planet at the same time.
Donc le compost nous permet de nourrir notre sol et nous n'utilisons pas de pesticides ou des engrais chimiques, mais l'engrais naturel, c'est notre compost. Nous utilisons aussi le mulch. Entre les différents lits, nous mettons du mulch et ça nourrit aussi le sol.
So that is our garden, and we're going to take a little bit of a break and have a conversation about seed money in case that's something of interest to you, and we'll do that on the deck.
Donc Roger, parle-nous un tout petit peu de ton association Seed Money et pourquoi Seed Money?
So as I mentioned, I founded an organization called Seed Money, seedmoney.org if you're interested, and it's something that Jacqueline has been intimately involved with over the years as well. So it was originally set up in 2003 under a different name called Kitchen Gardeners International, and we changed our focus over the year, and I'll talk about that in a second.
Donc Seed Money C'est une association que tu as fondée en 2003. Le nom, au début, ça s'appelait Kitchen Gardeners International. Et en 2016, nous avons changé le nom pour Seed Money parce que le programme a évolué et donc on voulait refléter cette évolution.
So the evolution that Seed Money went through was we were initially very focused on home gardens, trying to encourage as many people as possible to grow, something like we just saw a few minutes ago. But over time, what we realized was really important and what was really needed and sort of missing was more public food gardens, more things like school gardens and food bank gardens, homeless shelter gardens, prison gardens, all types of public food gardens. And we were sort of trying to come up with a clever and effective way to help more of those types of gardens start up and thrive.
Donc au départ, notre mission, c'était plutôt d'aider des personnes à avoir accès ou à avoir tout simplement un potager. Mais au fur et à mesure, on s'est rendu compte qu'il y avait vraiment un vrai besoin pour des potagers publics, pour des potagers qui font partie d'une association et que de cette façon-là, nous pouvons aussi aider des populations défavorisées. Donc, nous aidons des projets comme des potagers pour des potagers communautaires, des potagers pour des écoles, des potagers pour des églises, des potagers pour des banques alimentaires, des potagers qui aident les vétérans ou des femmes qui ont été maltraitées ou des enfants qui sont maltraités. Donc le potager a aussi un aspect thérapeutique dans ce cas-là. Et l'idée était aussi d'aider des populations économiquement défavorisées. Et de cette façon-là, ils avaient accès à de la nourriture saine, car nous pensons que ce n'est pas un privilège d'avoir accès à la nourriture saine. Tout le monde devrait avoir accès à la nourriture saine. Et donc voilà, ça fait partie de notre mission et c'est comme ça que les choses ont évolué pour nous.
So to sort of translate into English what Jacqueline just said is she was explaining part of the evolution towards public food gardens, because what we realized was that while it's really important for more people to grow backyard gardens, we needed to think more in terms of who in society currently doesn't have access to healthy foods and who in society doesn't even have a backyard for that matter. And so that's why we started to orient our work more towards public food gardens that are serving people who are socially or economically disadvantaged. And that is really the focus of our work now too. But we still, on our website, have lots of how-to information that could be of interest for backyard gardeners, because we understand that there are lots of backyard gardeners who are active in their communities. They're the ones who know how to grow gardens, and therefore they're people who we can try to mobilize to become more actively involved in public food garden projects as well.
Et nous voulons aussi aider les gens comme nous qui voulons avoir un potager, on veut les soutenir dans leur mission. Nous avons fait ça notamment, on a eu des campagnes où on voulait défendre les gens qui voulaient avoir un potager devant leur maison. Donc on fait quand même différentes choses, on a fait différentes choses et nous sommes toujours, on veut aussi promouvoir le jardinage parce que nous pensons que c'est une solution aussi pour tous les problèmes climatiques que nous rencontrons. Si nous pouvons produire notre nourriture, une partie de notre nourriture dans notre potager, dans notre jardin, dans notre potager. Donc ça c'est aussi important parce que ça a un impact environnemental de produire sa nourriture juste à 2 mètres de sa maison.
So there are a number of reasons to encourage more people to grow gardens in their backyard and in their communities. We've talked about the importance, sort of like a fairness issue, which is everybody ought to have access to healthy foods. It shouldn't be something just for people who are wealthy, and it shouldn't be something who are privileged. It's something that should be considered a human right. But in addition to sort of the fairness issues, there are other reasons why we think it's so important that more of these types of public food gardens are planted. And among the reasons are things like climate change. This is some of the most environmentally sustainable food you can imagine. It doesn't get any closer than this right here. So that's something that gardens have to offer. Do you want to just translate that then?
Oui, donc je pense que j'ai un petit peu parlé de ça avant, que les potagers ont un rôle important à jouer et à différents niveaux. Et un des niveaux, c'est aussi le défi du changement climatique. Un potager permet de produire sa nourriture tout près de chez soi. Mais je pense aussi qu'il y a d'autres choses comme c'est bon pour la santé. On est actif, on est dans son jardin, on bouge, on mange des produits sains. Donc le potager a définitivement un rôle à jouer dans différents aspects.
Yeah, so Jacqueline was talking about the importance of gardens in our health. Our physical health in terms of eating healthy, nutrient-dense foods, but also things like our mental health and our physical health. You know, when you're out working in the garden, you're working your body, you're using your muscles, you're stretching, but you're also connecting with the earth. You're connecting with all of your senses. You hear birds chirping in the background.
And the dog.
You hear the dog barking. Maybe that's not quite as peaceful, but it's all part of nature, and you feel ultimately sort of connected to some of these things, which is very good for our emotional well-being.
Oui, pour moi, je dirais qu'un potager, c'est un art de vivre. Et donc, c'est aussi un projet familial. Ça permet d'être ensemble et de partager une activité ensemble, de partager des repas. Et ça nous lie à la nature. Et on peut effectivement, à partir de là, découvrir la beauté de la nature, la beauté d'un légume, la générosité de la nature, trouver de la paix intérieure en jardinant et aussi une certaine empowerment, il y a une certaine puissance à pouvoir produire sa nourriture soi-même. Donc on prend les choses entre nos mains, on ne donne pas ce pouvoir à des organisations, à des sociétés qui produisent la nourriture pour nous-mêmes. On a ce pouvoir de produire notre nourriture nous-mêmes.
So what Jacqueline was talking about at the end there is this idea of empowerment, that it does feel good to be able to take some control over some parts of our lives, especially these days when everything seems out of control with, you know, coronavirus and the with also the fact that, you know, you may not like what's happening politically in your particular country, and you can feel sort of powerless, but to the extent that you can identify small actions that you can take, you know, either in your backyard or in your community, to try to take some power back into your hands, that's a very good thing. And that's what gardening allows us to do, is to at least say, okay, I'm not going to be able to necessarily solve climate change on my own. I'm not going to be able to solve racial inequity on my own. I'm not going to be able to, you know, make everybody in the world healthy, but I'm going to at least take a step in that direction by growing some of my own food for my family and my community.
Donc avec la crise que nous vivons actuellement, la pandémie, le coronavirus, donc ça, qu'est-ce que je veux dire? Oui, il y a une répercussion économique. Donc il y a de moins en moins de gens qui ont de l'argent. Il y a des gens qui perdent leur boulot, et donc ça permet, si on peut produire sa nourriture, une partie de sa nourriture, ça aide financièrement d'avoir des légumes dans son potager. Et puis il y a pas mal de problèmes en ce moment, d'inégalités, et donc le potager peut faire partie de ces solutions, surtout avec le programme Seed Money qui offre des mini-bourses et qui offre ces projets à ces associations. Ça leur donne la possibilité de lever des fonds et de pouvoir à ce moment-là commencer un potager ou pouvoir développer un potager
Oui, ou
et donner
agrandir.
accès à des populations défavorisées. Ils ont accès finalement à des légumes sains tout dans leur communauté.
Right. So, getting back to seed money, what we realized, my board and myself, was that if we wanted to have more of these garden projects, we needed to come up with a creative and effective way to help them out. And so what we did was we really listened very closely to project leaders, the people who have started up these garden projects, to find out what their needs were. And what we kept on hearing back was that they needed more funding. Mm-hmm. And initially, we had a program which was just focused on providing small grants, which worked quite well. But what we realized was that we needed to tweak that model, because we felt like we were essentially having to say no to a lot of very worthy garden projects. Mm-hmm. We had a couple of hundred grants that we were able to give out, but we were having thousands of garden projects approach us for help. So we switched our model over to something else, which we're calling crowd granting. And essentially what that means is that we have our own crowdfunding platform. Now, crowdfunding is a relatively new phenomenon whereby a number of people can come together and make small donations in order to make something happen. And what we did was, in addition to having this crowdfunding, we added some grants, some small grants into the mix to help motivate garden projects to raise money from within their communities. So that's a lot for you to try to explain or translate.
Donc, l'association Seed Money, ce que nous faisons, nous avons un programme où nous donnons des mini-grants. Mais ces mini-grants sont utilisés pour, en fait, pour stimuler les projets à lever des fonds dans leur propre communauté. Donc, on utilise une plateforme
Crowdfunding.
Et ces projets peuvent commencer une campagne. Et la campagne, c'est du 15 novembre au 15 décembre. Ces projets lèvent des fonds et en même temps que lever ces fonds, ils ont la possibilité d'obtenir une mini-grant avec seedmoney.org. Et quoi d'autre? Oui, je voulais dire que en général, tous ces projets lèvent en tout un montant autour de $200,000. Donc on parle d'une somme quand même très importante qui va être redistribuée complètement à ces projets.
Yeah, so to get into some of the details about Seed Money's crowd granting program, what Jacqueline was explaining at the end is that we run our crowdfunding campaigns all at the same time. And so our campaigns all start on November 15th and they all finish on December 15th. And so there is just this 1 month of concentrated giving for food garden projects across the country and to a certain extent around the world. And the reason that we do it this way is that we create sort of a spirit of friendly competition, you might say, among and between the participating garden projects, where they're competing a little bit against one another to raise more money than the next project and to win a larger grant from us. But the total effect is something really quite powerful, in the sense that this year, for example, we're going to give out about $50,000 worth of small grants, ranging from $100 up to $600. But that pool of grants is going to allow us to leverage a much higher amount in individual donations. So we expect that over $200,000 will be donated this year in the form of small individual contributions, in some cases as low as $10. So it's a very powerful sort of giving platform when put in the hands of people who have a compelling story to tell about a garden project in their community.
Oui, et c'est à partir du mois de juillet que ces associations peuvent commencer une campagne sur notre plateforme, sur la plateforme seedmoney.org. Donc, oui.
Yeah, so if you're interested in knowing more, or if you know somebody who is a passionate gardener or is maybe connected to some sort of a nonprofit cause like a school or a food bank or a shelter, send them to seedmoney.org. We're going to be opening up our crowdfunding platform sometime in July to new campaigns, and we provide a lot of support to our project leaders because for the most part our project leaders are not professional fundraisers, so we try to provide as much support to them as possible so that they have a very comfortable experience and a successful one. And our grants in our platform are available and accessible to garden projects across the country, around the world. So there are no sort of geographic restrictions on who can be involved.
Mhm. Et c'est toujours un moment très agréable pour nous de voir tous ces projets qui arrivent, de voir les photos, parce qu'en général, on demande qu'il y ait des photos qui accompagnent la campagne. Et on peut voir à travers ces photos tous les bienfaits des potagers. On peut voir la population qui est touchée. Pour moi, ça me remplit de joie chaque fois que je vois des enfants qui sont en train de creuser dans le jardin, de sortir des pommes de terre comme des trésors qu'ils viennent de trouver dans le sol, ou des carottes. Et on voit le grand sourire des enfants, ou des personnes qui sont sans abri et qui peuvent aller dans un potager. C'est vraiment, on voit des choses très touchantes. Et ça nous remplit de joie de pouvoir aider pas mal de monde de cette façon-là.
Yeah, so we're delighted that you're able to spend a little bit of time with us on our deck and in our garden, and we hope to see you online at some point at seedmoney.org. And we hope that you'll do some gardening of your own this summer, and so that you can experience some of these joys yourself in such a way that you're going to be a passionate advocate for gardening in your community. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Au revoir.